Alright, today my laptop is still at the repair shop, so no fancy intros, and that's completely alright, because today we're going to be having a look at Noodler's 54th Massachusetts. Should I really spell that? There are too many vowels, consonants in there. S, S, T, T, I think only one S, right? But this is humor, and yet funny. Anyway, I got this ink as a sample from Chris, as many other inks I've covered recently. So I don't have a fancy bottle to show you. You know, with Noodlers you also get pretty nice labels, but in this case there is only this. So alright, if you want the whole backstory to the 54th Massachusetts ink, then you can check out a video on YouTube by Nathan Tardif. He gives you the whole history of the name. Then we go to broad. And what I'm seeing so far is a blue-black ink. It performs well, handles well, flows pretty well, no skips or anything, which I like. Okay, italic. Okay, and then finally we shall do some flex. See how that comes along. Okay, well, good flow, looks good to me. I kind of enjoy this, so maybe we should have us a few passes. I really had to squeeze the last drops of ink from the sample vial to fill up all these pens, so I'm making these dashes a bit small. Because we have some more stuff to do with this nib. What to do, okay. And for Noodlers, sort of. Then we will do some more writing with a medium nib. Alright. And I have the suspicion that this is not entirely dry, but it is dry-ish. Okay, that's good. There was absolutely no ink left, so I can already tell you there's not going to be a brown benchmark today. There just is no ink. So that's quite simply how it's going to be. I do think we can evaluate the writing a bit. So what we're seeing is a nice dark blue-black. It even leans toward dark grayish, I would say, in this zone, for example. Has fairly interesting shading. I wouldn't call that excessive shading, but especially in broader nibs you do see some shading that's really in the blue-black range, so that's quite nice, and it handles fairly well. Even with just a little bit of ink left, I could make these pens write fairly easily, so pretty good performance. Alright, I think we can safely do a second pass there. There we go. And I shall load up some ink on my brush, see what's going to happen when we put this to the water test. Nothing. That is quite impressive, and there really is water on my brush. I'm going to take more water because I want to... You know what? I'm going to do some more writing because I don't have enough ink for the Tardif test either, so I'll have to do another test. I want to see how this holds up to water. This is a very broad nib. And first I think we can have a look at the eyedropper of death without music, because my laptop, as I said, is still in a repair shop. I cannot edit videos. This is a one-take thing. Alright, that's a lot of water. How is this coming along? That's dry, but I think this is still wet. Let's do a third pass there. So definitely a very dark blue-black. There we go. And I think while all of that is drying and working in and being processed, we could start to look at our scorecard. I have a lot of space for that this time. So, what we have is cleaning. Well, in all honesty, I have not yet cleaned this ink, but this looks like it's completely waterproof. And my experience with Noodler's inks is that they are relatively high maintenance, so I'm going to give this a 3, that being the lowest score, so the most intense cleaning activity is necessary. Bleed through, well, we don't know that yet. We have color, a blue-black. We have shading. Well, there is some, but I'm really, I don't think it exactly splatters off the page, so to speak. So there is some. I'm going to give that a 2 out of 1 being the best. Alright, then we have flow. And the flow, I have to admit, is excellent. I have no problems with it whatsoever, even in a flex nib, so that's really quite nice. And then we have feathering. Well, I don't see any on this paper, but that doesn't mean a whole lot. This is Rhodia, so we're going to see that in some cheap copier paper. And then we have drying time. Drying time. And finally we have waterproofness. Well, the drying time, I would say, is a good 2 out of 3. It's somewhere in the middle. It's not excessively wet, but it will definitely take some time to dry. And waterproofness, that's a good point. Let me just grab a tissue there to get rid of some excess water. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's, I'm looking for the cap to my pen. Ah, here we go. Let's have another look at this. And I really want to make sure my brush is super wet. Nothing happens. That is really quite impressive. And that would almost lead me to believe we're talking about an iron gall ink here. Interesting, very, very interesting. So waterproofness, well, obviously it's absolutely super full marks, because just nothing, I mean, the water just doesn't do a thing. I had a lot of water on there, it's still exactly the same, it doesn't even discolor, so that's really cool. Here we have something as to the shading. It goes from a grayish dark blue to almost black, so I think blue-black is a good description. And you know, that's all we have to do on this side. I think we should now try some other paper. This is what we're going to do next. Okay. Let us do a bit of fine writing. Fine. Medium. That was broad, then italic. And finally some flex. Alright, let's add a little bit of extra. I'm really pushing the flex nib to the max here, because so far I'm not really seeing any feathering. Here we go. Yankee Doodle, how about that? Alright, and you know what, that's all there's to it for this side. I am giving this a very good look. I do not see any feathering, even when I really push a flex nib to the very max. I'm just going to zoom here. I don't see any feathering. There's that little weird thing right there, but I don't think that's feathering. I think that's just me hitting the feed on the paper. I honestly don't see any feathering. Alright, then we have Yankee Doodle. And Yankee Doodle, he's actually a doodle, right? It's like a joke. Never mind. Yankee Doodle does not feather either, although I do see a big feather right there, but that's different. That is not the type of feather I'm talking about. So I think we're pretty good here. Yeah, we're good. Don't you think this would make an excellent movie, by the way? In the summer, Yankee Doodle went to town. He met a feather, and he put it on his hat. The feather was called macaroni, and he had clear connections with the mob. Bleed through. Yeah, bleed through. What about that? Well, there's nothing really remarkable except for the flex, but even this big nib, the 6mm nib, hardly bleeds through, except a little bit for the feather. And on Rhodia, I'm sure we're not going to get any. Yeah, that's 2 and 3 passes, 3 and 2, I mean, a little bit there, but that's with a really broad nib and a lot of water. So I think we can say that bleed through is very good here, and actually so is feathering. So that's a pretty good score, I would say. 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11. Inkage. OBKB, I think we should have us a comparison with this ink and another ink, and I could not really find an ink like this. Now that I've used it a bit more extensively, I didn't want to try it out too much because it didn't have that much of the ink. So here we have this 54th Massachussetts. Hello. Which is a blue-black. I think we can all agree about that. And then what you could compare this to would be something like this. And what we have here is Conway Stewart Tavy. I thought this was relabeled Diamine Denim, but I'm not absolutely certain. You should check that. I'm sure you can see some parallels between these inks. The Tavy is a little bit more blue. This is a bit more grey, but in the regular writing it's very hard to see that difference, I think. Then there's a host of other inks, Gerbin Bleu Nuit. I think I'm out of that, but that's another nice blue-black. That's a bit more towards the grey end of the spectrum, if I remember correctly. So you could try out that. Mont Blanc Midnight Blue is I think very close to this color, also to the extent that that is an iron gall ink, and that is really waterproof. I have no idea about the type of ink we're talking about here in 54th Massachussetts. I don't remember this was being advertised as an iron gall ink, so it's very likely it's not. On the other hand, this sort of grayness and that utter waterproofness, I honestly wouldn't know. So, Noodler's 54th Massachussetts. I hope this was useful, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.